the secret of the strategic autonomy debate, it's always used against the United States. Having a peaceful border with China should be one of our topmost national priorities. Until now, it looked like the US was willing to be a partner, but now the US is creating problems. But today, the problem is Bangladesh has lower tariffs, Pakistan has lower tariffs, a lot of countries. Russia imports barely $5 billion from India, China imports 15, while the US imports 90.
What is it that we can expect from that meeting, and what does it say about, as you point out in the piece, but if you could elaborate a bit on.
Since we've joined it, we find it hard to do a lot of things. India wants SCO to condemn Pakistan for its cross-border terrorism. Problems with China and Pakistan translate into the way the collective outcomes at the SCO. All other South Asian countries are now in the SCO. And I think Bangladesh, as we said, China is willing to support their membership as well. We've lost our regional forum. Two of your largest neighbors, we are not in a good place.
So your column this week, Raja Mandala in the Indian Express, takes off from a very important set of visits that the Prime Minister is set to do. First to Japan, I think, for a bilateral, and then to China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. So one of the reasons, of course, and of course, all of this is in the context of the tariff regime imposed on India by the US and the sort of confusion it seems, or at least India finding its way around this pretty major development from a friend. One of the contexts for this visit has been, Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister's visit to India recently. He met the prime minister. They've made all the right noises about, oh, this tariff is unjustified and India should stand up to the states, and China is backing that. Is this just about both for India and China, because everyone's trying to cut a deal with the US, as you said in the past. Is this just about signaling to Washington, just sort of trying to put pressure that, oh, we have options if needed, or is there more to it than that?
No, I think, see, with China, the normalization of the relations started in October 2024,
Yeah.
When Prime Minister Modi met President Xi Jinping in Kazan on the margins of an international summit. Since then, there's been bit by bit, there have been various visits by both sides. So they're picking up the threads from the Galwan period. I mean, after almost 5 years of very little contact, except on the border disengagement itself. So I think that process is on. I mean, surely there is a context in which this is happening. But the fact is, the India-China relations, I mean, has its own momentum, has its own complications and difficulties. So I think it's always, as we argue in the piece, it's misleading to conflate India's problems with the United States, with the presumed opportunities with China.
Yeah.
Because on the export front, I mean, the Chinese are an exporting nation. I mean, they don't import much from anyone. They got surpluses with most countries. And with India, it's a massive surplus of $100 billion a year. And there are no signs that will actually, anytime soon, that gap will come down. Because Indian manufacturing is so hopelessly, tied to imports from Chinese intermediary goods.
Yeah.
What is happening, though, is that India and China are now trying to put the Galwan behind them, trying to restore peace and tranquility on the border, and also to explore the prospects for resuming the boundary negotiation, the dispute itself.
Right.
One is peace and tranquility, other is the dispute itself.
Yeah.
So I think those are necessary things that India must do. After all, having a peaceful border with China should be one of our topmost national priorities, irrespective of what America is doing, what Russia is doing, what anybody else in the world is doing, because we have a long border, we've not been able to settle it in 75 years. So keeping that border stable is a fundamental requirement for India. And I think that anything in that direction is a good thing. But that doesn't mean we're going to embrace China today because we are
Right.
having cookie with the Americans. So things, I think don't work like that for big countries.
Okay. So, one of the interesting things you bring out in the piece, I thought, was when you just the sheer, and not put this, there's all this talk of strategic autonomy in India will not buy independent foreign policy, which is thrown about like a talisman, like this refrain, no matter what's happening, whether it's with buying weapons from Russia or oil or China but the numbers don't bear out any, or the reality doesn't seem to bear out what our strategic autonomy is. The condition of that is, like you're saying, if many of your major industries, from pharmaceuticals to anything involving magnets and rare earths, is dependent on China. If your trade, you have this huge trade with the US on which you're not, quite dependent. If you, your basic, a lot of your weapon systems, although there is indigenous manufacturing, is largely dependent on, say, 4 or 5 countries, Russia being a major supplier. What does that actually mean for this strategic autonomy picture? And does the discussion need to be nuanced a little more around that?
No, 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 absolutely. I think, look, the secret of the strategic autonomy debate, it's always used against the United States.
Yeah,
When analysts talk about strategic autonomy, we don't want to get close to the Americans. Therefore, that is presented as some kind of a strategic autonomy. But the reality is, as we said, look, your entire manufacturing sector today depends on China. If China stops rare earths magnets, your automobile industry is tanked. You want to build roads in the Himalayas, China says, sorry, we can't give you the mountain boring equipment. And if you say, look, I want to make Apple iPhones in India, they say, okay, we're pulling out the Chinese engineers. So I think this pretense somehow it's all about, we standing up against the United States, but you're hopelessly tied to the Chinese.
yeah,
So much of the manufacturing, policies on Atmanirbhar or of Make in India are all aimed at reducing the dependence. So that's where you're trying to restore manufacturing capacities in India. Because, for example, on vaccines, we used to do most of it within India itself.
yeah,
But over the last 30 years, Chinese began to dump
yes,
cheaper substitutes. And I think India, for Indian manufacturers, easy to buy something from China
yeah,
rather than make it on their own. So I think Chinese have tied. It's not just India. The US is in the same situation.
yeah,
Whole lot of countries. So people are struggling to get out of it. So that's one part. Second, when we keep saying, oh, strategic autonomy, therefore we'll get close to Russia. I mean, the fact that after 75 years, we are so dependent on Russia for spare parts and weapons,
yeah,
it tells you, so you need autonomy from Russia on the defense side.
yeah,
You need autonomy from China on the economic side. Okay, until now, it looked like the US was willing to be a partner, but now the US is creating problems. So that has to be dealt with. So I think the key in the end is really
yeah,
how competitive is your manufacturing sector?
yeah,
How modern is your agriculture? How do you, the scale of the state of Indian economy and its characteristics is what at stake. That if you had a competitive economy, it wouldn't have mattered that, okay, Americans have done 25%, you can sell it somewhere else.
yeah,
But today the problem is Bangladesh has lower tariffs, Pakistan has lower tariffs, a lot of countries. So now that 25% tariff, others are going to exploit it. So therefore, I think without changing the structure of your industry and your agriculture, you're going to find yourself severely impaired. And as we said, look, Russia imports barely $5 billion from India. China imports 15, while the US imports 90. We're talking about goods trade in billions of dollars terms. So even if you think, putting Russia and China together, they import only 1/4 of what America imports.
yeah,
So therefore, answer to the American problem is not with China or Russia on the trade front.
right,
So I think, and on the Russian defense side, I think we've started producing more at home, more partnerships, but still, I think we delayed doing things at home. But now I think it's a crisis. I would say this should also be treated as an opportunity,
yeah.
and that we maybe say, look, okay, we didn't expect this from Trump, but he's done it. Therefore, I think as a large country, that I think time is now to say, look, pull up your bootstraps and say, look, we're going to find a way out. We're going to change the way we organize ourselves.
Right. So, now on the two major meets I'll come to, I think SCO first, although it is second. The SCO is not exact. I mean, it's being made. There will, of course, I'm sure there'll be a bilateral meeting and there'll be some photo op and there'll be some this thing. But basically, the SCO is as you point out in the piece, a fairly, its purpose, its original is sort of this anti-US or anti-West bloc of Asian countries. Pakistan will be making a lot of is fairly, with China's backing, will probably be using it to make a diplomatic sort of be on the diplomatic offensive. Bangladesh is seeking to join. What is it that we can expect from that meeting, and what does it say about, as you point out in the piece, but if you could elaborate a bit on the presence of China in South Asia? We've always known, I mean, all the smaller countries will, of course, leverage the two big, India or China, but how how is China then presenting itself closer home to in our neighborhood now?
Yeah. No, there are two things to it. I mean, I think one, there is the bilateral meeting with President Xi Jinping on the
Yeah,
margins of the SCO.
yeah,
That's where I think some forward-leaning steps are likely to take place, and those are welcome as long as they stabilize the India-China relationship. The SCO itself, look, I think we were so eager to join this forum that was set up in the mid-90s by Russia and China. So it's really led by Russia and China,
yeah,
or China more increasingly by China. Now, we were very eager to join it, but since we've joined it, we find it hard to do a lot of things which the rest of the members do. For example, the rest of the members say Belt and Road Initiative is the greatest thing since
yeah,
sliced bread. India is not in a position to say that. Or India wants SCO to condemn Pakistan for its cross-border terrorism. SCO is hesitant to do that. So I think our problems with China and Pakistan translate into the way the collective outcomes at the SCO, and I think those problems have not disappeared. So and nor does India want the platform to be an anti-American platform.
yeah,
So the fact is that China, Russia, they're negotiating with the Americans directly.
yeah,
So both of them are trying to mobilize the rest to stand up to the United States so that they get a leverage. So
right,
I think how India navigates that has always been a problem. And
right,
I think we've had to some duck and weave sometimes on the kind of declarations, which the SEO makes. And I think we didn't go for the Prime Minister did not go for the last SEO summit. And when we had to host it in Delhi, we did it online. So I think we have problems with the SEO, whatever the original framing of the forum was. That for us, our difficulties with China and Pakistan make it hard. On the other question, I think is what more important. I think for us, our problems with Pakistan have meant we have largely shut down the SAARC forum.
yeah,
That is, since 2014, the last summit was in Kathmandu. The South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation has not met, largely because India's objections on the question of terrorism. The summit is supposed to take place in Islamabad, if it ever takes place. But since then, a lot of difficulties between India and Pakistan has meant the summit is not taking place. Now, nature, as we say, abhors vacuum. Now, what's happened is the SCO, meanwhile, has quietly begun to bring in Pakistan as a member, of course. Afghanistan became a member. No, sorry, Afghanistan is a observer state. Then there are others like Sri Lanka, Nepal, Myanmar, and they're all now part of it. So barring Bhutan,
yeah,
all other South Asian countries are now in the SCO. And I think Bangladesh, as we said, China is willing to support their membership as well. So this way we are. In a sense, we've lost our regional forum.
yeah,
And many of them have gone to the China-led forums in the region. So I think what this means for our position in the region. So this again brings the logic question that, look, we're not even talking to Pakistan today. And Pakistan will make a big deal out of it, I think, in SEO. We're not talking to Bangladesh, really,
yeah,
seriously. So therefore, with the two of your largest neighbors, we are
yeah,
not in a good place.
yeah,
And therefore, this gives a free run for the Chinese, for the Americans, whoever
yeah,
you want to think of, to play in this field where India is constrained. Therefore, its ability to shape the region has become more complicated. And I think these others will exploit it. So therefore, I think we have to take a fresh look. How do we promote regionalism? It's not that India has not done anything. For example, in the article, we mentioned about China's minilaterals with Pakistan,
yeah,
Afghanistan, one minilateral, Bangladesh and Pakistan, another minilateral, Bangladesh and Burma, another minilateral.
yeah,
So we tried our own minilaterals. We tried developing the BBIN process, that is Bangladesh, Bhutan,
yeah,
India, Nepal. But that has not gone very far because initially Bhutan had some problems. Now we have a problem with Bangladesh now. Similarly, we tried to construct the so-called Bay of Bengal Forum,
yeah,
that is India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, working with Burma and Thailand. But there again, now the centerpiece of that geography is Bangladesh.
yeah,
And if we've had relations with Bangladesh, that's not going anywhere.
yeah,
So I think we have a challenge here. So therefore, I think this is a good moment. See, the problem what happens with the PM's visits is it always gets framed as there's a historic visit. Our prime minister has gone,
Yes.
shaped the whole thing, and come back. But there are other stuff going on. I mean, there are almost 20 people, 20 countries will be there. Turkey is playing its own game in the region.
Yeah.
You know, Iran plays its own game in the region. Our own neighbors, for example, Pakistan is a best buddy of Azerbaijan and
Yeah.
Turkey these days. So what they do, so I think there's going to be a lot of activity there, which is not centered on India.
Yeah.
So I think this way the challenge for us. I think our strategic community, we're so self-referential. We focus on what we do and not
Yeah.
seeing the bigger picture that is unfolding in inner Asia,
Yeah.
which is, I think, given our problems with China and Pakistan, we are really constrained from doing anything dramatic in the region.
So finally, the relationship with Japan, which is the big bilateral visit, Prime Minister Modi, that has been relatively on an even keel growing over the last years, where there's still a lot to be done in the Indian Ocean, like you say in the piece, that the land border to the west is as it's these and to the east, in fact, has these constraints now, and whereas the Indian Ocean still has room for maneuver. Do you think with given the current situation with the US, is that if not the Quad, but there's certainly more to be done with Japanese funding in development in terms of projects in the neighborhood and of course in the Indian Ocean. What are some of the concrete outcomes we can look forward to from that visit?
No, I think they broadly talking about three broad areas. I think outcomes, positive outcomes are expected. And I think one is on defense. I mean, I think
Yeah,
we've had incremental expansion of the defense cooperation between India and Japan over the last many years. But I think the ambition, I think, is to draw up a new framework for India-Japan security and defense cooperation. Second, I think, is what's happening on the economic side. I think the relationship, the Japanese want to step up their investments in India and to see how they can boost their presence in the Indian market. There's also talk with them on semiconductors, on a whole range of other technology-related areas. So I think on trade, technology, and investment, there will be some focus. And finally, I think there is the people-to-people cooperation. The Japanese too, they have a declining population. They're trying to get workers from outside. There's been some movement from India, from our northeast, for various professions, especially, for example, in healthcare and other
right.
areas.
Yeah,
So I think, and then there are not many Indian students who go to Japan.
yeah.
So Japan wants to attract a lot more Indian students to study there, more tourists to go there. So I think that is the third leg, and I think in all these three areas we might expect some interesting forward movement.
Right, sir. Thanks a lot. We'll, of course, keep looking at what's happening with the SCO and the Japan visit. Everyone, read the piece on the Indian Express. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Akash.